Jacksonville 911.
Yes, sir. Hi. This is. I went out to play this afternoon. I thought she was with her, and now she's missing.
How old is she?
She's 8 years old.
Where was she playing at around the house?
Right around the house here.
Is she a white female or a black female?
She's a white female.
What did she have on when she left?
She had on a red T-shirt. And, Mama, did she have on jeans? No. I've been upstairs, Mama. I have searched.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Blue jeans?
Mama, did she have on blue jeans? What'd she have on? What kind of shorts?
Pair of shorts?
She had on a pair of shorts and a red T-shirt.
She blonde hair, black hair?
No, she's got reddish-brown hair. It's actually a brown with an auburn tint to it.
What's her name?
It's short. Her name is Maddie. She goes, it's Madeline.
What's her last name?
CLIFTON, C-L-I-F as in Frank, T-O-N.
When's the last time anybody saw her?
Mama, what time did I come home from boating? About 5:30?
About
4:30 to 5 o'clock. About 5:30 was the last time we saw her. And I was letting the kids play out here for a little while, and then she disappeared, and nobody knows where she's at.
She have any friends nearby? Did you go check?
I got every neighbor out here right now.
Okay, the police will be there shortly, ma'am. You keep looking, okay?
Okay, do you know where I am? I mean, I'm at the corner of Fleetwood and Stephen is right there.
What is it?
My husband just came home. And, hold on just a moment. Honey, Maddie is gone. No. Okay, my husband just pulled up, but she's not with him, of course.
Okay, the police are going to be there shortly, ma'am, okay?
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That very frightening 911 call you just heard was made by Maddie Clifton's mother, Sheila, just moments after Sheila realized that her daughter was missing. As the police arrived and the neighbors started to gather to help her search for Maddie, nobody could ever predict what a heartbreaking and horrifying ending that this story would have. The very last person to see Maddie Clifton on November 3rd, 1998 in Jacksonville, Florida, was her neighbor and friend, Joshua Earl Patrick Phillips. Because Joshua's house was right across the street from Maddie's, the two of them hung out quite a bit and had become friends. On that day, Maddie had gone over to Josh's house to play baseball in the backyard. Later, Maddie headed home, but she never arrived. It was around 5 p.m. when Maddie's mother made that disturbing 911 call that you just heard. This was when she had realized that nobody could find Maddie. Maddie was last seen wearing a red YMC basketball shirt with her name in big letters across the back. Immediately, hundreds of people went into action to look for Maddie, and even in nearby dumpsters. Early on, Josh had noticed the commotion and had come over to ask Maddie's mom what was going on. Once Josh found out that nobody could find her, he eagerly joined the community to search and help find her. She was his friend, and he was very distraught when he heard she had gone missing. He did everything he could to help find her. He even helped put up flyers with her information on it, and he helped canvass the area where she vanished from. Maddie's bright smile was plastered onto t-shirts and billboards everywhere, and a $50,000 reward was offered for any information leading to Maddie's whereabouts. This reward was offered in hopes that anyone would have any tips or information leading their parents to their bright, beautiful little girl. For almost a week, the community rallied together to search for missing Maddie. The first suspect was one of Maddie's neighbors, a man that had been accused of involvement in an assault case over 15 or 20 years earlier. However, the man had a solid alibi for when Maddie had disappeared. At that point, he was cleared of any suspicion. Very soon, the FBI got involved because the local police struggled to find any new leads. But they too didn't find any new evidence. It was starting to look like Maddie had just disappeared off the face of the earth. But everything changed 6 days after Maddie's disappearance, when the most unsuspecting person was revealed to have the darkest secret. Missy Phillips, Josh's mother, had noticed a strange wet spot on the floor of their home. From there, she started searching her son's room when her attention was brought to her son's bed. She later said, "I didn't want to believe what I was seeing." Then, pretty much in shock, she left her house, looking around for a police officer. At that moment, she looked over at her neighboring Clifton's house and thought to herself that they were still holding on to hope. She knew at that moment they were still searching for their daughter, praying that she was alive. But they would soon have their world crash down around them. The officer that Missy found was camped outside the Clifton house during the search for Maddie. The officer then accompanied Missy back into her house, but he entered Josh's bedroom alone to see the horror that Missy had discovered. The officer could see that sticking out from underneath Josh's mattress was Maddie's tiny feet. At this point, I have to warn you that the details of what happened to little Maddie are very disturbing, and not for the faint of heart. The truth is, Josh had known where Maddie was all along, including when he was asking Maddie's mother what was going on, when he was helping to pass out flyers, and when he appeared to be worried about her well-being. All that time, Josh had known that Maddie's body was under his bed. Police had found that Josh had used duct tape to hold his bed frame together and to keep her body from being discovered. In addition, the shorts that she had been wearing earlier were taken off. Investigators found a baseball bat hidden behind his dresser. They also found a knife stashed in the room. It was also noted that air fresheners had been sitting on his nightstand, along with freshly burnt incense and air freshener spray. Even more disturbing, the flyer about Maddie's disappearance had been placed right next to the air fresheners. What this told police is that there was a clear attempt to cover up the smell of Maddie's decomposing body. Another very disturbing piece of information was that as Maddie's body was removed from underneath the bed, her hand was still clutching the bed frame, which means Maddie was still alive when she was placed underneath the waterbed. Had Maddie been alive when everybody was out in the street searching for her? Was Maddie alive when Josh was pretending that he didn't know what happened to her? We may never know those answers. What is clear is that if Josh had reported what had happened, that Maddie may have lived. The autopsy report said that Maddie had been struck 3 times in the back of the head. Investigators determined that Josh had used the baseball bat as his weapon to kill Maddie. Maddie's throat had also been cut by a knife that was found in Josh's bedroom. She was stabbed 7 to 9 times in the chest, although some sources put that number as high as 11 times. Either way, it was a cruel attack. The autopsy also showed no signs of a sexual assault, even though her underwear had been taken off. However, this evidence would later come up as a key piece of evidence in the case. Josh was then arrested, and it was a shock to everyone. Those who met Josh described him as a quiet but friendly kid, with nothing really particularly remarkable about him. Yet within hours, he admitted to killing Maddie on the day that she was reported missing. It was during this interrogation that Josh gave his full account of what happened to Maddie. But keep in mind, this is just his side of the story. Unfortunately, Maddie can't tell hers. Maddie had shown up at Josh's house and wanted to play, but he knew he wasn't supposed to have any friends over when his parents weren't home. The two had been playing baseball in his backyard when Maddie was accidentally hit in the eye with the ball. As she started bleeding, she also started to cry loudly. To calm Maddie down, Josh said he took her in the house. But she kept screaming, which sent Josh into a panic. He told the investigators that he was afraid his father would come home any minute, and that he would be angry with Josh for letting Maddie come into the house without permission. So panicking and wanting Maddie to be quiet, he grabbed his baseball bat and hit her over the head with it. Not just once, not just twice, but 3 times. Very hard. He then hid her body under his waterbed. When his father finally did come home, Josh said that Maddie was still moaning, so she was still alive. He then dragged her out from under the bed, stabbed her in the chest before hiding her body again, until his mother found it. What people wondered about, because of the horror of it, did Josh still sleep in his bed with Maddie's body underneath? The answer to that, as terrible as it is yes, he did. For an entire week. Let that sink in. Up until this point, Josh had never had any history of violence, nothing that would make anybody suspect him of doing something so horrific. Especially his actions when he was helping to look for Maddie. He appeared to have genuine concern. But Josh's version of events did not quite make sense to investigators. For starters, he claimed that her shorts and underpants had come off when he was dragging her across the yard and into the house. But yet neither of those items had any dirt on them that would appear that she had been dragged across the yard. Most people agree, including investigators, that his explanation wasn't plausible. The police of this tight-knit community were horrified to find out this young man who had helped in the search and seemed genuinely concerned just a few days earlier had actually been her killer. Some started to question the Phillips family on how they hadn't noticed the young girl's body or even the smell of the decomposing flesh. Missy explained that there was really nothing out of order that would make her suspect anything. However, there were also signs that something was wrong, which really made sense in retrospect. Josh had been really quiet since Maddie had been reported missing. But this was explained away as him just being nervous for his friend and scared. Also, if you're familiar with this case, then you probably have heard that the police had searched the Phillips home in the days before the body was found. The sheriff claimed they searched the house, and the officers didn't see anything suspicious. How the police and Josh's parents didn't notice the smell of a decomposing corpse is beyond me. Josh said he had hidden Maddie's corpse out of fear of his father. The truth about his home life was not completely understood until Missy explained it publicly. She said that she and Josh always walked on eggshells around her husband because he was very intimidating, frightening, and sometimes just overbearing. He really didn't like it when any neighborhood children were in the house when there was not an adult there to supervise. But he especially didn't want Josh hanging around with girls that were younger than him. Missy said her husband didn't have a fondness for little girls, which she never understood. Josh's father, Steve, really never had a chance to explain his side of things because he died in 2000 in a car accident. When the case went to trial, Josh was charged as an adult. Josh's defense attorneys claimed that the whole thing started as an accident which turned to panic and bordered on madness, and that he should only be charged with manslaughter, but the prosecution wasn't buying it. First, the autopsy didn't show any evidence of a bruise on her face. There was nothing to show that she had been hit in the eye with a baseball. In fact, there was no evidence that they had been playing baseball at all. Also, Josh claims to dragging her body into the house, which there was no dirt on her body or on her clothes, which proves that her shorts probably did not come off from being dragged. Furthermore, there wasn't any blood in the backyard or anywhere else in the house other than in Josh's bedroom. And finally, with the fact that Maddie had been found wearing only her shirt and her socks, leads to the conclusion that there were some inappropriate undertones to this case. In the end, the jury only took 3 days to deliberate. They found Josh guilty and convicted him of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. But because of his age of under 16, he was not eligible for the death penalty. Behind bars, Josh grew from a teenager to an adult. Josh still refuses to talk about the murder, except for in 2018 when he apologized to her family. Josh broke down at several points while reading his apology letter, but this doesn't mean that he's expressing true remorse. It could all be an act in order to improve the likelihood that he'll get a reduced sentence. Being exploitative and taking advantage of others to achieve their own ends is a narcissistic trait. Josh seems to focus much of his apology not on the victim, but on himself and the situation that he's in. Now, although it seems like the story would end here, it doesn't. In 2017, Josh was resentenced. This should have never been a possibility for Josh, based on the terms of his first sentence. Yet in 2012, the Supreme Court ruled that mandatory life sentences were unconstitutional for juvenile offenders convicted of murder. Even though more horrifying details were exposed at this trial, it was found that Josh had books about cult subjects in his room. In addition, it was shared that Josh had adult content on his computer in his room. He had been looking at it just a half an hour before Maddie's death. It was violent in nature and featured underage girls. Josh may have been influenced by these videos and fantasized about acting these things out in real life. This would prove that his actions were premeditated and not something that happened in the heat of the moment, as he claimed. In this case, he may not have specifically targeted Maddie, but she was probably a victim of opportunity for Josh, as he found himself alone with her and unsupervised. Maddie's mother spoke at his trial. She asserted that it wasn't Maddie that he was after in 1998, but their other daughter, Jessie, who was 11 at the time of her younger sister's murder. You see, a photo of Jessie had been found in Josh's room. Josh must have stolen the picture from the house before Maddie's death, which proves that Josh must have been obsessed with the Clifton's older daughter, Jessie, all along. Josh's sentence was upheld after the 4-day trial, so he remains in prison. However, this saga of a case will continue sooner than you might think, as Josh will once again be eligible for resentencing in the year 2023, after spending 25 years in prison. So for now, this case really doesn't have a conclusion, but we will keep you updated if anything happens. And until then, I want to thank everybody for watching our videos. I plan to keep bringing them to you. Again, if you have any requests of stories that you want to hear, please let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to click follow, like, and share, and I'll see you guys next time.